most new agents start on the phones. I tried to avoid them for as long as possible, and yet here we are. So, right.
Yeah.
Essentially, I had some really great mentors my year one, who, sent me a lot of good buyers, through, just paid buyer lead generation, Zillow, realtor.com, kind of the standard internet leads. So got off to a really good start, kind of built up a sphere. And, over the next 6 or so years, had relative success with, essentially paid internet lead generation and just sphere of influence, essentially, referrals, word of mouth. And then maybe 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I had what was the worst year of my career, and it forced me to say, okay, well, I got to do something different. And then so of course, I hopped on YouTube and saw agents who were doing YouTube for real estate, and said, okay, well, I like camera stuff. I can figure this out, and so we started this YouTube channel, and it was literally just me making videos about why not to move to Maine, why not to live in New Hampshire, why just like the stupidest things. Like I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. And it was very slow for the first 6 months. I made a video every week, and then all of a sudden the channel took off. One video just kind of exploded, and then anyone who does YouTube like you, Brandon, knows that like once one of your videos takes off, all the rest of them gain a ton of momentum, and then all of a sudden you have this ball that's kind of rolling downhill really, really well. And so the channel took off. We started generating, a significant amount of leads every month, somewhere between like 50 and 100 relocation specifically buyer leads, which is great. And so, we built a small team as a result, with, two buyers agents, transaction coordinator, and a VA. And again, all those things, up to last year, you would look at my career and say, okay, that's a successful real estate agent. There wasn't a year that I had made less than six figures, even in the worst year. And so we had established some pretty good pillars at that point, where we had, paid buyer internet lead generation. We had YouTube, which was bringing in also buyers. We had sphere of influence, and that would be past clients, just kind of not a huge system, but it was working. Whereas like people would call us, hey, we're getting ready to move, we want to sell. But then I asked myself a question, and I said, where do you want to be in 5 years? Mm. And when I asked that question, it forced me to really think about, okay, well, I want to be listing properties. I want to be the listing agent. I want to be listing, high-end homes in our area. And also I want to be making fun YouTube videos about it because it's just fun. Like I legitimately enjoy doing that. And so it's like, if you can combine what you love to do with what pays you money, like it's gold. And when I asked that question and I realized, okay, well, what I'm doing now isn't going to get me to where I want to be. What I need is a sustainable and predictable way to generate listing leads. And as someone who has experimented with paid lead generation, I can tell you that I've also experimented with a lot of paid seller lead generation formulas. Mm. And it just has never converted. It has not given me the type of return that something like a Zillow Premier Agent or, realtor.com has. And so, it's kind of that elusive seller lead generator. We talk, it's quite simple. It's not elusive at all. When I was 18 years old, I worked in a call center, and our job was to sell free books for $15 shipping and handling. And so I had already had experience on the phone, and I already knew, okay, well, this can work. I did it, when I first got started, just, okay, well, let's throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. So I called some expireds for a couple of days and ended up with a listing out of it, which is, okay. So I had some success there. And all right, so I need to generate sustainable listing inventory. How do I actually do that? Well, what's working now is great for buyers, right? YouTube is a buyer lead generation source primarily, if you're going to do it as a real estate agent. The other sphere of influence that can generate a listing, but it's not predictable. And so again, I'm on YouTube, and all of a sudden I start, stumbling onto your videos. And so it okay, yeah, cold calling. I'm hearing it. All right. Yep. This could work. And essentially went through the business training beginning of last year, or end of last year, I should say, and was like, okay, this is so simple. Like, wow. If I put in this time, if I make these calls, if I talk with these people, there's chances are that I'm going to generate a sustainable listing business. And so, really over the course of this year, that's what I've done, to the point that I'm no longer working with buyers. And so we're sending every buyer to our team, and I'm just working with listings. Simply because, I kind of parrot a lot of the things that I hear, from your coaching to our team. It's like, it's really so simple. Like, if you're having more conversations with people who are thinking about buying or selling, you're going to do more business. And so the reality of cold calling or prospecting outbound, and that having that pillar in your business, is that you're going to end up in a lot of conversations with people that are thinking about buying or selling. As a result, you're probably going to be busier than you were when you weren't having those conversations. And that's really been this year for me. And it's been really, the powerful thing I think about, asking a question of, what is my business? Where do I want to be in 5 years? Is that it does two things. It forces us to realize that what I'm doing now is not going to get me there. And also the fascinating thing is, like, oftentimes we're only 1 or 2 big power plays away from getting there in 12 months. And so even though I'm thinking 5 years, realistically, we're talking 12 months, and pretty much, I mean, I'm talking to other agents, and I'm like, I feel like I have a different job at this point. It feels completely different than what I was doing. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because, again, kind of working the wrong way through this process is now I have these, different lead generation pillars that I can pull from, and that are all helping our team grow. So hopefully that wasn't too long-winded.
It's great. It's great. That's why I wanted to have you on specifically, because it's a path that I think, and I really want to unpack this for people, right? Because I think that the forces at B are trying to deter people from outbound and say that the grass is way greener on this side of inbound, right? So, like, you see ad after ad after ad after ad of people with messages that agents are hoping to hear, like, cold calling is dead, and that's old school, and come build a multi-million-dollar business doing YouTube and having leads. Stop chasing people, start attracting people. You kind of went the opposite path. You actually came from the inbound side of the business and said, well, wait a minute. If I want to be in control of my business and I want to be listing focused, I can only do that through outbound. So I want you to speak to really the industry when I'm going to ask you this question. And I just want the genuine, transparent, honest, no BS truth, and that is that, why do you think that marketers are screaming from the mountaintops around, get out of outbound, it doesn't work, and come over to this sexy world of inbound? And really quick, and we'll get right back to the video. But here's what's interesting. 80% of the realtors that watch videos on this channel are not making $100,000 a year. In fact, most of them tell me they feel like underpaid Uber drivers. They're burned out spending their nights and weekends chasing flaky buyers all over town, and as a result, earning less money now than they did before they got into real estate. And if you're in the same boat, I'm going to invite you to actually do something about it. In the description right underneath this video, there's a link for you to schedule a private one-on-one Zoom session where we'll map out a custom step-by-step action plan for you to start earning a minimum of $10,000 every single month, starting immediately. If you're serious about your business and you're ready to make a change in your business, click the link in the description to get started.
Well, they stand to profit significantly off of you not putting in the work yourself.
Mm.
And you know, it's like you are the one being sold, right? Like we are the ones being sold this by the major players when you look at Zillow and Realtor.com and you know, essentially they stand to profit greatly off of us being too lazy to pick up the phone and call people ourselves. Because what they're promising is a quick, easy, they're going to call you. They want to go show a property. They might buy it. They might not, but then you can get a client and it works. Like you can't
Totally.
deny that it works. We still
Everything,
get a
that's the
return.
point. Everything works if you're willing to work. And so, yeah, keep going. But yeah, everything works. Everything
Right.
works in real estate. You know, I think that this is such a great conversation. And again, we're going to have a lot of fun with this. You know, the thing that we're looking at with lead generation specifically is time and money. These are the two factors. And like you, over 20 years, I have spent millions of dollars testing things, trying things. I want to talk about the inbound seller lead generation in just a second. And
Right.
that's why I can confidently say that everything works, because I've succeeded through every lead generation thing you can think of, from webinars to seminars to inbound lead generation, outbound lead generation, open houses, events, referral partners. I have succeeded in that world. But here's what I also know 20 years later. If you want to get listings as
Right.
fast as possible in the most profitable manner, I have yet to find anything that beats outbound. Has that been your same experience?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, as the person who shied away from outbound for 6 years, I can pretty confidently say that this year is a really good testament to the power of essentially, to me, the way that I look at it, when I look at a high level of difficulty, whenever you do something, generally speaking, there's going to also be a higher level of opportunity. And so when you look at something like YouTube, 2% of realtors are on YouTube because it's a high level of difficulty. And you know this more than anyone, Brandon.
Yep.
It's hard to succeed on
Super
YouTube,
hard.
whereas the level of barrier of entry to go make a reel on Instagram and post it is relatively low comparatively to long form content. So
Totally.
the opportunity is high. Same thing with outbound. The level of difficulty when you look at making outbound cold calls comparatively to what, you know, if you just take out your credit card, you call Zillow and then they're going to call you with buyer leads. That's a whole different level of difficulty. So what that means is the opportunity is really great. And for me personally, the listing side of it, right? Because it comes down to where do I want my business to be in 5 years? I'd rather not be chasing down buyers, lining up 17 showings, running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to get to my kid's baseball game. I would rather be in control of my business as a listing agent. And what the power of outbound prospecting has allowed me to do is to leverage my time so that, you know, and again, I'm not on the phone 24/7, you know, but I'm committed to the time that I have to make these calls. And it's like a high value activity for me, high dollar value activity for sure.
Yeah, it's a great point. Well said. And so when we think about, well, I guess the big question, and then we'll unpack this even more into what you're doing on the outbound side of the business, is
Sure.
now that you're on this side of the business, on the listing side of the business, now that you know what prospecting, outbound prospecting is and what it is not, would you have started off on the outbound side rather than the path you went down, or would you have kept that the same? There's no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious. Would you have started learning outbound first, and then through your outbound and listings, would you have leveraged from there, or would you have done it the exact same way you did it?
You know, it's hindsight being 2020. I think that the question isn't so much should I done it differently. The question for me is what would my business look like today had I been doing this for the last 7 years? In other words, would I have still done YouTube? I don't know. I don't know, because realistically, like, had I 7 years ago just said, okay, I'm going to commit to call 5 days a week, X amount of hours, this many contacts, chances are at this point I'd be so busy that I wouldn't have time to pick up a camera and go make a YouTube video about living in Maine, right? It's just the
That's right.
reality of the situation. And
Yeah.
so, do I regret the path that I chose? No, because it has proven to have multiple pillars of leads coming into our business, which if I solely was focused on outbound, I'm not sure if I necessarily would have. However, if I was just new getting started, just trying to find some listings, yeah, outbound 100%, 100% of the.
Yeah. I mean, I look back on it and I totally agree, because the thing that people don't realize, even when they see somebody that's succeeding with what most of the time is just a shiny object and it's meant to distract you from keeping the main thing, is that most people compare that person's chapter, call it 20, to their chapter 1. What I mean by that is, I think you said this at one time, but I want to give the audience some perspective. When you talked about getting, I don't know, I think you said 50 to 100 leads on YouTube, how long were you uploading videos before you got your first deal? Like, I want to give people perspective, right? Because they hear the end result, which is your chapter 20 of uploading videos every week. For how long, Cam, before you even got your first sale from it?
Yeah, I mean, it took, I would say, eight months before a closed transaction. And my channel is somewhat of an exception. Like I know other people that are doing YouTube videos in this area that videos, and who knows how the algorithm works. Again, you can't control a lot of aspects of those lead generation systems. And so, has it proven to be profitable? Yes. Has it proven to be fun? Yes. And I enjoy doing it. So that's why I keep doing it, because now I'm taking the listings that we're getting, we're making fun videos about those. It's creating a lot of, we're getting leads from those. So it's creating a lot of synergy at this point. But yeah, I mean, every single week for 6 months, I made a YouTube video, and like nobody watched any of them, like 3 people,
Yeah.
it was pathetic, and they were horrendous. I mean, they were horrifying. Like I watch them now and I'm like, wow, I should just take these down. This is embarrassing. Because you just learn just like prospecting, where you learn scripting and skills. Like same thing with being in front of a camera. Like that takes time to learn. It's like it's a whole thing in itself that you have to go through and you have to learn. So yeah, I mean, most agents should not start their business and start a YouTube channel. You'll be out of the industry within 6 months, because you won't get a paycheck from it for 12, unless you live in a high relocation market like Texas.
Yeah.
One of these southern states where you're getting a lot of relocation buyers.
Yeah. Great point. Okay. So let's talk about your listing business. Thanks for all that. What you said, and this is so true, is that when you generate a listing in your business, it creates almost this flywheel effect where you're able to leverage that listing in multiple different ways. And in your case, you can leverage it with content. You can leverage it to get additional listings. My other question is, has your team started to really leverage your listings to get what I believe are the best buyer leads as a result of leveraging the listing? Even in my case, our conversion on sign calls and open house buyer leads had a higher conversion and certainly a higher profitability than Realtor.com and Zillow combined. I don't know if that's been your team's experience yet, but are you guys to the point where you're leveraging this to get even better buyer leads for the team?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we run multiple open houses on our listings, and, either myself or one of our agents are hosting these open houses, and out of these open houses, depending on the type of listing, if it's a desirable property, we'll usually generate between 1 and 2 buyer leads. But even, 2 weeks ago, I had an open house. A guy walked in. He looked like he just wanted to have a conversation kind of guy. And we talked for about 20 minutes. And I literally ran him through the exact appointment setting script that I use on the phone. And he's like, yeah, come on over. Set the appointment and signed a listing right down the road in Portsmouth. So it's like you never know. Again, it boils down to conversations. And open houses are like one of these opportunities where you've got highly motivated. These are buyers raising their hand. I'm thinking about buying a house. Some of them have representation, of course, but those that don't, fantastic opportunity.
It's great. It's great. All right. So let's do a little deep dive on the business. So, on the outbound side of your listing lead generation system, what sources of homeowners are you focused on prospecting right now?
Yeah. Right. So right now I'm focused on expireds and circle prospecting,
Love it.
primarily like maybe a 1 to 2 mile radius around our listings.
Got it. Okay. And give us an idea, Cam, of how much prospecting are you typically doing every day?
So 3 days a week I call for 2 hours.
Awesome. I love it. So keeping it really simple. So you do 6 hours a week of prospecting. And
Yep.
in that, right, in that 6 hours, typically in a week, how many people are you talking to?
So the numbers that I have, the goal, I think it's like 120 a month. So I think that boils down to like 30 or 40 a week on
Got
the
it.
phones. Is that 30? Yeah. So 30 a week. Not high, not super high volume, honestly, compared to a lot of other agents that I've listened to on the podcast. But it's working. So
It's great. And so when you say it's working, can you kind of walk us through what that means? Like what does the funnel look like from there? So if you get 30 to 40 contacts and call it, 100, 150 per month, what does the conversion look like on that? How many leads do you typically get every month from these efforts?
yep.
And how many appointments does that typically generate?
So I mean, I can just run year to date. It looks like I've had 870 conversations. I've set 36 appointments, gone on 26 and signed 23. So I think that I have a high conversion rate when it comes to like listing appointment to conversion. So that's been, and then our purchase price is high. Average is like not comparatively to California, but to a lot of towns we're like 700 to 1.2. So it allows it, when I ran the numbers based on my goals, it allowed me to do this kind of volume. And then in terms of listings closed so far, we've closed 16 closed units so far.
See, and that's what I find incredible. So, like, if I did 870, does it say how many hours you've spent doing this?
Let me pull that up.
And what are you tracking out of? Are you using Saleslytics or using Sisu? What are you using?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I started on Sisu and
Yeah.
I'm just in now. You need to help me get it over to the other one because I just get into it and I'm like, I don't have time for this. I'm just going to log
I
into
totally
Sisu.
get it.
Apologize on that. So it says 148 and a half hours prospected.
And so you've closed 16. Here's what I want to draw a parallel to is that if you did the math, and I don't know how many, how much volume that those 16 closings were, but if I divided that by 140, how much was that in volume?
It says 9.2 million.
9.2 million, right? And so let's just say for the sake of, do you get 2.5% commission in your market or 3% or something like that? So you get 3%. Okay.
Yep.
So it's $275,000 divided by 148 hours. It's almost $2,000 an hour that you spend prospecting. See, this is the point. This is why this is the most profitable business strategy out there. And I just haven't seen anything on the seller side, which I want to talk about next, that can produce these same results as you picking up the phone for 5 to 6 hours a week. And so, as far as in terms of the work that we've done, what do you feel like has been the most useful or most helpful, rather, with the conversation itself? It's one thing to have somebody say, okay, fine. Even someone on your team, right? Cam, they're new. They say, I start calling expireds and doing circle prospecting. I don't get anything out of this. So what are you saying that's making this so much better? What have you learned in this conversation?
Yeah, I just think that I think I got really lucky, and I'm grateful for the YouTube algorithm that it highlighted your videos. Quite frankly, because
I appreciate that.
The strategy that you're implementing in the call I don't know how else to describe it other than like psychological magic, because it really is the most honest and transparent way of genuinely trying to get someone's business that I've ever encountered. And so I think that for me, a lot of the hesitation towards cold calling is from the experience that I had selling free books for $15. It's kind of bait and switch. It's kind of sketchy. Place got shut down, right? And not because they went out of business. Like they got shut down because they were doing sketchy stuff, right? Which is
Yeah.
quite frankly how a lot of people view cold calling. And I think a lot of my perception was from that. And so getting back into it, I'm really grateful for the scripting. Just that I mean, we could go through the whole script, but the genius of the entire process is that by the time you get to the end and you're saying, I mean, you can shoot me down, like no worries. Like people are just like, yeah, come over.
Yeah.
Why not? Thank you so much for the call. And it's just so much more conversational and honest. And the amount of feedback I've gotten from sellers that were like, we got a lot of calls, but like something about the way that you were talking to us just made us want to keep on the phone. I had a woman say, I was in the middle of a business call when you called, and I wanted to talk to you. And I credit that a lot to that opener, the pattern.
Well, and that's just from, and thanks for the kind words, by the way. It's just like, after you make so many mistakes, you learn, what led me down this path. And this show's about you, not about me, but it's what I learned is most people in sales are trying to figure out how to sell. What I learned is that's the wrong path. The wrong path is learning about people. So I went down the path of psychology, and that has served me so much more than traditional sales training and methodology, because those two oftentimes butt heads. So if we're communicating with people, then it makes sense to study people. And the sales training teaches you how to manipulate and pressure people, which goes against human psychology. So that's what we've tried to do. That's what my life's work's been for the last 10 years. And thus been my experience too, where my competitors are getting chewed out and hung up on. I'm having complete strangers tell me, this is such a great conversation. This is like a breath of fresh air. I'm so happy you called me. And we're turning this, to your point, this nightmare of what used to be this cold calling, and it's turning it into an activity that is actually making us feel good about it. And that's been your experience?
Yeah. I mean, not every call, right?
Sure, of course.
But I would say that, when you get a legitimate, someone that you'd actually want to do business with, right?
That's right.
Because let's face it, like there are plenty of people that you're going to talk with that you would not want to do business with. But someone that would actually, be a great client, that actually wants to sell their house, that actually has motivation. Like when you run them through this script that really doesn't feel like a script, it has this really powerful effect on people that it works. And I'm incredibly lucky because it's the only thing that I've really gone all in on since starting. I haven't tried any other methodologies. I'm like, well, this script works. I'm just going to use this,
Yeah. So let's talk about, I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about follow-up and the presentation. So how important has follow-up been for you in building a pipeline and nurturing these leads versus like this all or nothing mindset, people trying to make, one phone call and get a listing off that first call? It happens sometimes, but the reality is, we're having to nurture these leads the same way you would on YouTube, right? You'd offer a lead magnet, they come into your world, you'd email them over time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is no different than that. Can you talk to us about how you view lead follow-up?
Yeah, I think that the system in place, again, the simplicity of it is what makes it so powerful, is that you have hot leads that you try to touch base with every day. I have warm leads that I call once a week on Mondays. I have nurture leads that I call once a month. And if you make it any more complicated than that, you drive yourself crazy. You just call the people, hey, we had a great conversation. I was just wondering if there had been any updates or if you're ready to get together. And it's really, that has been the most, I don't know if it's the most well, it's definitely the higher converting conversations.
Yeah,
Usually the most appointments I'll set will be on the first day of the month because I'm making those monthly follow up calls. Like today, I was doing my monthly calls because, and I have an appointment from a lead that came in 5 months ago, and that's
it's great.
in our from a circle prospecting from a listing that we had, and so the follow up is everything. The little freaking brownies that you send, the amount of people that have been like, "Oh my gosh, you sent me a brownie. This thing's awesome." I wasn't going to call you back, but now I'm ready to go. It's like the simplicity of what you've created here is really great for someone like myself who knows I need to do this but doesn't have the time or energy to be able to figure it all out. And so, I can just plug it in. Here we go. All I have to do is show up,
Yeah, that's great. No, it makes a lot of
which
sense.
is
And then,
kind of hard for most people, right? That's like the whole
yeah,
thing.
oh, no doubt, no doubt. So let's just transition to the appointment itself, right? I mean, this is where the real money, I believe, is made, is our ability to handle these conversations with people such that they feel comfortable and confident signing a legal contract and agreeing to pay us a whole bunch of money to sell their house. So you've been doing this for 7 or 8 years.
Yep.
What are you doing at the listing presentation? Is there anything that, through the work that you and I have done together that has, again, been helpful in positioning yourself at these appointments to be the obvious choice?
Yeah. I mean, again, prior to going through this program, like I had a listing presentation. It kind of sucked. It still worked because people like me, and that's just I know that if I can make a connection with someone, chances are I can get them to work with me. However, all of a sudden, shifting from like 3 or 4 listings a year to like 24, 25, 30 listings a year, all of a sudden I'm competing now. I'm going against 3 or 4 agents. We're all calling the same expired listing. This is a different ball game. You don't just go in there, oh, hey, if you like me, please, you can work with me. Oh yeah, sure, I'll cut my commission. That way you can get the deal, right? Like you can't pull that crap. Like, and so the listing presentation, I use it. It's the exact same thing. I printed out a bunch of laminates because I'm just like I'm cheap and I'm like I don't want to print this thing every time I go it. So I put it on laminate paper and I just run through and I've got the script down at this point. At this point, I've given at least 30, 35 listing presentations from that exact scripting from the upfront agreement, which is gold, to running them through the whole process. And by the end of it, again, it's the whole process of this framework is that from the very first call to the time that they're ready to sign, by the time you get them through the entire listing presentation, they're like, this guy is different. Like something about like this guy's got his stuff together. And for me, the coolest thing is like I used to have to lean on, oh well, we do YouTube, and it was like I don't even talk to people about that. Like it's like an added bonus. Like we show up with a videographer and they're like, what is this? I'm like, check this out. They're like, holy crap, you do this too. Like it just becomes this incredible added bonus. Whereas before it was like the whole pitch. And so, yeah, I just bring people through the listing presentation. It converts really, really well. The more you practice it, the more you get comfortable with overcoming objections. And I've had really great success with it.
I mean, you're converting over 90%. Do I have that right?
80, it says I've been on 26 and set 23. So it says 88.5.
88.5% conversion. I mean, that's pretty damn good.
And some of those are sphere, right?
Sure.
So just to
absolutely. Yes.
Some of those are like, if you don't work with me, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I like what you said though. That's a little good nugget for anybody that didn't catch that. I don't know if you have it or you can show it to us, but you've laminated the listing presentation where you could just use dry erase to use the same thing over and over again. This will be great if you have it.
Yeah, I got it right there.
Yeah. So then you just flip through that and use some type of dry erase marker as you go through it, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And I can circle things. It's very interactive with people. And I usually make fun of myself while I'm like, yeah, my wife tells me I should buy a laminate paper. You know what I mean? You just kind of keep it for people. I've had a lot better. I used to have something on my computer, and then it just gets clunky. You got to load up the internet.
Yeah.
Oh, what's your Wi-Fi password? We don't know our Wi-Fi password. I don't know your Wi-Fi. You're trying to get a hotspot. It's just a nightmare.
Yeah.
So that's been.
Yeah, I really like that too. And then you could just erase it, with a rag or whatever, and you got a clean presentation for the next one.
That's what I do. Yep.
So 100%. Smart. And then you fill it all in. Do you fill in a lot before the presentation or as you're having the conversation, or a little bit of both?
Yeah, no, I'll fill it in while we have. I'll fill it all in beforehand, and then when I go to the presentation, then I'll like circle a number. If it's something
so
important.
Good. That's such a great way to do it, and such a great way to present. It's so much more engaging.